Fox News alert, we got him. It took 6 days, a manhunt across state lines, and a grisly discovery inside of a storage facility. The Brown and MIT killer finally found. Claudio Neves Valente, a 48-year-old Portuguese national, was found late last night in a storage unit in Salem, New Hampshire. Sources tell Fox there were no notes or manifestos, but they found 2 9mm, a bulletproof vest, and the jacket he was wearing at Brown. This was a targeted attack, but in a different way. More on motive later. What we do have is a trail. He flew to Boston, rented a car, here he is at Alamo, and then rented a storage locker in New Hampshire. Then went south to Providence and spent weeks casing the university. A custodian told police they'd seen the shooter as early as November. And Brown's security cameras even caught him creeping around in early December, but they never released that video. Police have great footage of the shooter walking into the storage facility about an hour after the MIT professor was murdered. When police arrived, they found the rental car that they had been looking out for, a gray Nissan Sentra. They were looking for it because an anonymous tip came in earlier in the week. It was a Reddit post. It turns out he wasn't just a former Brown student. The guy was homeless and living inside of the building that was shot up. John was just walking around when he locked eyes with the suspect. We learned about it last night. This homeless eyewitness blew open this whole case. From there, they ran the plates, picked up the suspect's car at least 14 times in the vicinity around December 1st, and the car pinged at Brown the morning of the shooting and then was spotted outside of the home of the MIT professor right before he died. And the last ping led investigators to the Salem storage facility where they recovered the car and found the gunman dead. Now, this is just in. The New York Times is reporting that the autopsy showed Valente died from a gunshot wound to the head and an apparent suicide on Tuesday. So one of the biggest murder mysteries in the country was solved thanks to a homeless guy who lived at the scene of the crime. Did Brown University know there was a homeless graduate living in the engineering building? If they did know, why didn't they send investigators to interview him? If they didn't know a homeless guy was living in the engineering building, then that's a massive security breach.
Welcome back, guys. I honestly don't even know where to start with this story because the more details that come out, the more disturbing it becomes. What happened at Brown University is not just another crime story. This feels like a complete failure on multiple levels, and people deserve real answers. For 6 days, police were hunting for Claudio Neves Valente. This wasn't a small local search. This was a full manhunt after a deadly shooting at Brown University and the murder of an MIT professor. And after almost a week, they finally found him dead inside a storage unit in New Hampshire. He had 2 guns, a bulletproof vest, and authorities say it appears to be a suicide. That alone sounds unreal. A storage unit with better security and cameras than a Ivy League campus. When you hear how this case was cracked, it almost sounds like a movie. Valente flew into Boston, rented a car, got a storage unit in New Hampshire, and then spent weeks quietly watching Brown University. He wasn't rushing. He was planning. He knew the campus. He knew the buildings. That should already raise serious red flags. The biggest break in the case didn't come from high-tech surveillance or campus security. It came from a random Reddit tip. Think about that. An anonymous post online helped crack a murder case involving 2 elite universities. The tip mentioned a gray Nissan with Florida plates that lead police to the rental car and eventually to Valenti. And then comes one of the most shocking parts. The person who tipped police off was a homeless former Brown student. This person had a physical scuffle with Valenti just hours before the shooting and became suspicious of him. That testimony ended up being crucial. A homeless former student noticed danger before the university did. Let that sink in. Police were able to track Valenti's movements through car pings. His vehicle showed up near Brown University, then near the MIT professor's house, and finally at the storage facility where he was found dead. This was not random. This was targeted. This was deliberate. Now, let's talk about Brown University's security. Because this is where things get uncomfortable. The video raises a serious question. How does a homeless guarded live inside an engineering building on campus without anyone noticing? No alarms, no security response, no immediate concern. That is not just a mistake, that is a massive failure. Even worse, the Brown University president reportedly refused to admit that university security failure. Meanwhile, we learned that the building didn't have working security cameras, didn't have proper key guard access, and didn't have security guards on duty the day of the shooting. This is an love league school with billions in funding. There is no excuse for that. At one point, the video mentions that the storage unit where Valenti was found had better cameras than Brown University. That should embarrass everyone in charge. The video also highlights the number of reported sexual assaults on campus, which only adds to the concern. If students are not safe, then what exactly is the administration protecting? The motive behind all these mistakes make the story even darker. Valenti was a former Brown student. He knew the building, he knew how to move around without raising suspicion. Classmates described him as arrogant, aggressive, and someone who constantly complained about the school. Some even said he billed others. This wasn't someone who snapped overnight. It looks like the attack at Brown was aimed at the university itself. Not random students, not chaos, a message, a statement, and then there's the murder of MIT professor Nuno Loureiro. That part appears deeply personal. They knew each other from their time in Portugal. This wasn't a coincidence. Reporters say Valenti was fired from a teaching job in Portugal before coming to Brown. A former colleague believes jealousy and revenge played a role in the MIT professor's murder. That suggests long term resentment and unresolved anger that followed him across countries. There are also disturbing details about how careful Valenti was. Offshore bank accounts, credit cards not in his name, a diversity lottery visa entry into the US back in 2017. This wasn't someone living a normal, open life. This was someone who stayed hidden, planned quietly, and avoided attention until it was too late. What bothers me the most is that multiple warning signs were missed. A strange man living in a campus building, a confrontation hours before the shooting, a pattern of stalking behavior. None of this triggered action until people were already dead. And now the question is accountability. Will Brown University leadership be held responsible? Will anyone admit mistakes? Or will this get buried under statements and PR talking points? Some are already calling for the Brown president to testify before Congress, and honestly, they don't sound unreasonable. This tragedy wasn't just about one dangerous individual, it exposed cracks in campus security, leadership denial, and a system that failed to protect students and staff. Elite reputation doesn't mean immunity from responsibility. At the end of the day, two people are dead, families are destroyed, and a university community is shaken. The public deserves honesty, not excuses. So, the real question is how many warning signs have to be ignored before universities finally take campus security seriously, and who should be held accountable when they don't. So, thanks for watching my video. I will see you in the next video.